1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Hello, internet world. I'm kind of enjoying this story. This is a good one. I'm pretty sure this story is post-college. It is not Super Babies. It doesn't have a name. It's pretty interesting to me, though. Okay, and this poor kid, who is not even 20 years old, he said he's 19. He's having a lot of, like, inflammation problems. I didn't have any, like, disease or anything in mind when I was writing this, and I can't tell. I mean, I don't think he's supposed to have any, like, specific disease. I think he's just, like, he has a lot of, like, swelling, and, I guess his bladder is, like, swollen and can't pee or whatever the fuck. So that's where we're at right now. Alright. A hair in my mouth. Okay, the trickle stopped. He sighed again, so he'd have to deal with being bloated today. Great. But he didn't have time this morning to play around. He wet his long, blonde streaked brown hair and his skinny, prepubescent-like body. The grime seemed disappeared from his fair skin. In quick moments, he scrubbed at himself with the palms of his hands. If only he had more time. Tiki shut off the stream and reached up, dropping the shower head back in its holster and stepping back over to meet his clothes in the dry half of the stall. A lifetime of practice, and he was pretty good at using a shower head to wash only his body, not drench every corner of the stall. Well, maybe in his mother's tiny private shower in her house. But here, for the apartments, the stalls were long anyway. The rings on his fingers fell all right now, not squeezing them tight, not cutting off capillaries. Loosened by the salt water, settled into place. He grabbed his towel and dried rapidly, soothing his skin with the absorbent dry fabric. I need to get a drink. For once, I'm not going to drink alcohol. It's too fucking hot to drink booze. I'm going to have some of this good shit. This is, like, seriously my favorite drink in the world, I think. Carrot juice. This shit is so fucking good. And somebody had the nerve to tell me that you can die from drinking too much carrot juice, but I think you would have to drink, like, gallons. Like, multiple gallons, or at least a gallon. It's so good. It's so good. I love carrot juice. Anyway. Where is it? Where was I? There's so many, like, scratched out things here. That's why it was hard to read. Blah, 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 blah. Soon, Tiki was satisfied. He couldn't spend too much time anyway. The starting hour for his job today was running towards him and getting nearer every second. He pulled his pants off the floor, checking the pocket for the keys. Still there. He took all his laundry in his hand, tied the towel around his waist, and pulled the curtain back, heading back out. But you know what? He doesn't have any fucking flip-flops or anything like that, so I guess everyone is just sharing their fucking foot germs, which is fine. Blah, 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 blah. Heading back out. After the warmth and the blanketing steam of the bathroom, the hall was chilly. Goosebumps raised all over Tiki's arms and neck and bare torso, and he shook his hair out in an odd shiver, as if that would warm him up. He didn't have to wait long, though. Soon he was right back at his room door, squibbling the key in the lock, pushing it open and stepping back into his little den. Yes, he purred inside his mind with both relief and excitement. It was warm here. No more ice. They had turned the heat on early today. It was moments like this when he didn't care about the rumors. He didn't care if this circulated hot warmth bubbling up from the floorboards did spread disease and lined the tenants' lungs with dust and lint. It seemed worth it. So worth it. Ain't that the fucking truth? Even with something as like totally bad for you and the environment and everyone else around you, sometimes just like you just get caught up in this fucking world that just gives a shitty place to live and shitty things, and you're just fucking grateful for it because it's like it'll like ease your fucking misery for just like a second, you know. One glance at the window just to make sure the white curtains were still shut. They were, and with that, Tiki tossed his laundry sans keys, who says sans, to the foot of his closed bedroom door with a quiet thunk. The said keys he tossed with a little jingle onto the bed, and with that, the towel dropped down off his waist, hit the floor with a flop around his ankles. He's gonna just let the towel hit the floor. I would never do that here now because it would just get dirty the second it hit the floor, and you won't want to rub yourself down with it the next day. Let me see. A flop around his ankles. One ankle was tattooed, I guess, with a tiny navy blue Aztec bird. And I see, there was something earlier about a Navajo pattern, and now this is an Aztec, so I guess all the, fucking, you know, all the, thought I heard somebody knock on my door. Did you hear that? There's like an explosion outside. Anyway, all of the fucking, cultural appropriation people can be pissed at me for all this stuff. You know, it's so funny because before the days when people started to complain about cultural appropriation, like that just seemed to totally come out of nowhere. And like, sometimes I see what they mean, but for the most part, it just was never like that, you know. It was just like when you're a writer or you're creating any type of art or even just making fashion or whatever. Someone's setting off fireworks. Anyways, yeah, it was never like racist connotation or anything like that. It's more just like, oh, I have all these possibilities for all this stuff I can write into my story or to draw or whatever. It's like every country of the world is basically like, you know, like just an option. Everything out there is an option for you to use since, like, you know, art is using like pieces of the world, anything that you've seen, experienced, known about, anything like that, anything that you can put into your art, you can. So it was never like, oh, I'm doing this to be like, oh, I'm gonna make this character like from India or something to be racist, or I'm gonna make this character from like Kuwait or something. It's more just like, oh, I haven't used this one before, let me try this, let me try that, this will be interesting, you know. It's like saying your character is from Taiwan or something is the same as saying your character is like a Pisces or something like that. It's just another piece of information that makes it interesting, you know. But now all that shit is just like, what the fuck you mean? What the fuck you mean? That's not your right to use that. Da-da-da-da-da-da. And you know, all this shit. But seeing as this is a sci-fi story, yeah, I'm assuming this is just kind of like projection of like what would be popular in the future, I guess, or whatever. Anyways, back to it. Tiki sighed in relief and quickly grabbed his MTU. 7:43, his luck was improving by the second. Had he really only spent 10 minutes in the bathroom? Well, he supposed. His shower was not long, after all, just a rinse. He set the unit back on the shelf at eye level and, yawning briefly, picked up a different item. This one was a small tin or some other metal container, shaped like a disc. He was quick to unscrew the top like clockwork and dip the finger of his other hand into the innards. The creamy, clear gel was cool to the touch and deceptively soft. He stuck with simple himself, clear and unscented, but the stuff came in every color and smell known to mankind, it seemed like. When he walked into a convenience store and saw them lined up there, whole displays and things devoted to it. People sure did like their skin foam. Tiki himself, if he wasn't in such a hurry, could probably play with it all day. He took the stuff, fingerful by fingerful, and smeared it onto his body, more thorough than sunscreen. Some did have sunscreen included, though, of course. A little went a long way, and when he figured he had enough, he set the tin down on his shelf and rubbed the skin foam into his body with the palms of his hands. Salt water was good, but protecting the skin from that salt with this stuff was even better. Oh, so that's how they get away with being in salt water all the time. You know what's funny is I didn't even think about that, but that's cool. As far as Tiki was concerned, with the heat on and all, oh, it was just funny because now I'm just like, oh god, heat, it's so hot right now. Oh baby, Tiki moaned in a whisper to himself out loud. Yes. He laughed at himself, then opened his eyes and shot a look over, suddenly, to his guinea pigs, like guinea pigs, but not. And sure enough, the two pairs of topaz tiny eyes from two little furry heads behind the plastic wall of the cage were looking at him. What are you looking at? He teased. Never seen a naked man before? Tiki turned back around and finished rubbing in the lotion. Face, shoulders, ribs, stomach, thighs. Face, shoulders, ribs, stomach, thighs. Everywhere. He was acting downright erotic in his playful mood. Hey, if you can't act erotic while you're lotioning your body, when can you do it? And standing directly in front of his window, but who really cared? The curtain could even be open, really. There had to be at least 200 apartments in this high-rise. What would be the chances that a passerby would even look up and into his particular window? His bedroom was typical for what he was. Young, unprofessional, and out on his own. The small corridors and shelves. Yeah, I remember this. They basically live in, like, these little, like, you know those IKEA, like, it's like a big square, and then there's squares within the square. It's like those IKEA shelves, you know? The whole walls are just those, and they put all their stuff in there, basically. Where was I? Shelves covered the wall around his window, and the space of wall above his bed as well. His bed itself really was a shelf, the largest of them all. A plank of stiff wood and steel raised 2 inches from the floor and supported on tiny stilts. This was the plank which his mattress rested comfortably on, blanketed with its apricot-colored sheets and deep burgundy covers. Though now, as Tiki peeked over at his bed, it wasn't so much a pretty sight as just a tangled mass of this bedding piled on the soft mattress. Oh, well, it didn't look bad, per se, just not tidy. But who really needed to be tidy when they had their own place? That was the beauty of it. Above the body of the bed were rows... Oh my god. Above the body of the bed were rows upon rows of shelves, all like the plank of the bed, jutting straight out from the wall. Not screwed or hammered in, but built that way. Covered in items. The shampoo and soap and sponge and other bathroom items he had neglected that morning. Trinkets, souvenirs, little wind-up toys of colorful translucent plastic meant for children. But he loved those things. A couple of candy bars, hairspray, hats, scarves, gloves for the winter months. Just cluttered with every imaginable household thing, right up until the space just above the head of the bed. There, instead of shelves, were twin boxes suspended on the wall. One, the refrigerator for food, and the other, the warmer. Oh, my poor kitty is crawling! She always crawls when there's, like, explosions outside. I wish I could put the camera on her. She's, like, so low to the ground. She's, like, going like this. My poor kitty. Stealth baby. She's underneath the bed now, hiding. Anyway, where was I? A little... Where was I? Okay, one's the refrigerator for food, and the other the warmer. A little thicker basket lined with a plastic bag. That was what held the old wrappings of the frozen food, and the basket sat perched up on top of the fridge, just waiting to be used or emptied. Around the window, poking out from the dark Gothic wallpaper, were further shelves. Cluttered just the same. That's another thing about like sci-fis, when like everybody just eats microwave meals all the time and that's it. Like there's no other food. It's just like, oh my god, you guys, you're all gonna fucking get cancer. We're all gonna die. That's all you're eating? Just microwave meals for every single meal of the day. There is no other food. There is no anything. You're just eating these fucking space food. It's just like, oh my god. It's just like, I don't know. I'm just like, you're all so unhealthy. No wonder you can't pee. Where was I? Around the window, poking out from the dark Gothic wallpaper, were further shelves, cluttered just the same. As he set the little tin of skin foam back onto this shelf, he made a playful face, sticking out his tongue at one of the lizards. The quick little animal flared out the pink of its throat at him, looking bright against the pale green and white of the rest of its body. There were several small cages here. Small cages, clear plastic, just the size to hold a gallon of water each. They were lined with white denim chips. The guinea pigs were shuffling in their bedding. The lizards were leaping around. 2 of the cages were filled with water, and a colorful fish swam in each of them, flaring their fins excitedly when they caught a glimpse of each other or the lizards. There were newts, a sticky frog, and a pair of little turtles smaller than the palm of Tiki's bony hand. I was totally, like, obsessed with having all these animals, like, when I was younger. Now I'm just like, Tiki, this is so irresponsible. Like, you're living in a fucking death trap and you're trying to have all these fucking animals. Like, you know, I don't know, whatever. And 3 beautiful, blue-furred, pink-eyed mice. What the fuck? Quite a menagerie for someone as young as Tiki. And their feed and bedding and supplies were stuffed onto the shelves. Alright, Tiki, he slapped himself back into human linear time. You can't hesitate anymore, you're gonna be late, and you know how they treat that. He shuddered at the thought. My babies and me will starve if I get put on the bad list. I'll never find a job again, he thought to himself. Unless things had changed overnight, perfect attendance was still a requirement. Oh god, what a stressful world. I have some more of this stuff. Drink carrot juice. Okay. One of the guinea pigs leapt energetically from one side of its cage to the other, and Tiki laughed at how the big feet of the creature startled its cage mate. He grabbed his mobile unit and looked at the time again. 7:50, Jesus, no time to waste. He dashed naked from one side of the room to the other, almost as fast as a split second it had taken his pet to do the equivalent. He yanked open his closet door. His closet was big enough to step into, but not really enough space to turn around. It was filled with a honeycomb-esque network of more built-in shelves, or maybe cubbies was a better word, where his clothing was housed. He didn't have enough time to choose his clothing carefully. He was too jittery, his hands were too sloppy, and his mind was racing too fast to do the job, even if he did have the time. Ugh, I know how that feels. And what did it really matter? He was going to change into a uniform the second he got there anyway. Tiki grabbed a tiger print t-shirt. Oh, I guess prints are really in. Tiger print t-shirt off the top. Or I guess maybe he just likes prints. I don't know. Off the top of one of his piles in one of the cubbies. It was a loose summer material, drapey and soft, and a bit of weight in the hand when he held it in a bundle. It was practically see-through. The neon orange didn't hide a lot. Still, he didn't bother pulling on an undershirt before he just yanked it over his torso and flattened the shirt out. He's wearing a summer shirt even though it's cold. I don't know. And almost at the same time, he snatched a pair of tight silver jeans and hopped on one leg, pulling them on. He practically fell into the pants. Shoved both of his legs into the holes, and stumbled, managing not to hit the floor as he pulled them up over his hips. That's all written like in the margin, like really small. He didn't take the time for a belt. He didn't need it with these pants anyway. Yeah, he seems like he likes tight pants. He grabbed a pair of socks and yanked them on his feet, then slipped into the pair of shoes that were nearest the door. There were a few pairs of shoes scattered around in jackets. His room was not the neatest, but he couldn't worry about that now. He stepped on a pale blue... He stepped? I guess so. He stepped on a pale blue hoodie and shoved his feet into the pure black shoes without laces. In another split second, as he shoved the unit into his back pocket, he grabbed his pants from that morning and snatched out the keys. Didn't he throw the keys on the bed? I think that's a lack of continuity or whatever. Hurry, Tiki was saying to himself. Hurry, 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 and pray God that there's no traffic. Everyone knew that 15 minutes could be the difference between smooth sailing and gridlock. Down the steps he raced, down the trampled hot pink carpet, and down the flights of the building, level by level. Why didn't he think to use the elevator? I don't know. But what if it was broken or slow? Then he'd regret not going to the stairs. They ought to put a handicap code on your MTU for always makes choices. A handicap code on your MTU for always makes choices to make it difficult on himself. That was the wisecrack that his friend Dayona would make if he could see him now. A tired joke that he always whipped out when Tiki did something harmless like, well, take the stairs or take a slightly longer route back home from work. Taking the stairs is healthier, Tiki would quit back. I don't like that word quit, but I use it apparently. That's what the gyms are for, Dayona would say. Okay, let me cut this off. This is also getting long.